Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Capnclydes MTG. I'm finally over the hump. I'm feeling better. I'm back. And let's hope I don't go in remission. Knock on wood. But before we get into any of that silly nonsense, let's talk about the topic of the day, which is Duskmourn and what I think the top 5 cards for Standard will be with the new set coming out. So don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, comments down below, feed that YouTube algorithm. Plus, there's links in the description to help support the channel. You can buy some cards, become a member on YouTube, get into all the free giveaways that'll be coming up in the month of October. It's going to be a good time, and we'll be giving giveaways all the way through the end of the year for members, and maybe even some for the viewers. We'll see, Christmas and all. So, with all that said, let's get into it and take a look at the cards that I think are really going to impact Standard moving forward. So, we're going to start the day off with a honorable mention. It is Unwanted Remake, a 1-white instant that destroys target creature, but its controller gets to manifest dread. So, this is very remnant of things like Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares. Well, not so much swords. I mean, swords did give you life, but it was an exile effect. This only destroys, but you do get to take the top card of your top 2 cards of your library, pick one, put it on the battlefield. You can flip those cards up when they're face down for their mana cost. So you may not get rid of the problem immediately. I mean, long term, but immediately you can stop whatever it is they're doing. And odds are they're not going to have another creature on the top of their deck, but you never know. The other drawback to this, too, in Standard, there will probably be a lot of aggro decks, and most of those decks will probably have 2 power, 2-ish toughness creatures, that this will just be one for wanting, not really doing a whole lot for you other than stalling for a turn, because they'll swing at you, you can destroy it as an instant. You don't take the damage, but you don't really solve the problem of there being a creature on the battlefield. So, because of things like that, I only gave an honorable mention. But if the format plays out a little better where big creatures become a thing, this can be a serious player, as you can kill and deal with big creatures for only 1 white. So we're going to start off now with our top 5. Coming in at number 5, we have Split 'em Up. That's right, 2 white and 1. Choose one. Destroy all tapped creatures or destroy all untapped creatures. It is a situational board wipe, but it also is only 2 white and 1. This is the cheapest Wrath that we have ever seen. And if the format leans toward the heavily aggro like we think it will, this may be top tier prime real estate for those white-blue control decks. It seems powerful. It's going to see play in a lot of other formats as well. Commander, maybe a couple modern decks, who knows. But in Standard, there's not going to be a more powerful creature removal spell than this. Because if you're getting beat up, and your opponent's tapped all their creatures to punch you, all the ones you got untapped, you can just wrath your opponent's side for only 3 mana. And that is something special. And if white weenie decks are a thing, like I think they might be, this is going to be very pivotal in the sideboard or maybe even main to help swing those kind of combats. Moving on to number 4, what we have here, Sheltered by Ghosts. Yes, it's another white card. This one is amazing. A white and 1 enchanted creature you control. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent the opponent controls till this card leaves the battlefield. Plus, the creature you enchant with it gets +1/+0 and has lifelink and ward 2. I know, like... It slices, it dices, it makes julienne fries. This does everything you want. Removes an opponent's permanent that's causing you trouble, as long as it's not a land. Your creature gets lifelink. It gets ward 2, now it's harder to kill. And it gets +2 to the attack. This is prime white aggro deck material that has everything all in one. It has removal for your opponent, buffs for your creature, lifelink. It does it all, and only for a white and 1. This is going to see lots of play in Standard. This might see Modern play. Yes, I think it's that good. Definitely Pioneer play. But in Standard, this is the bee's knees. Moving on to number 3. Yes, I know. It's another white card. I'm sorry, they're also good. So 2 white and 1 for a 2/2 flying unidentified hover ship. It's aliens. It's just aliens. Whenever this thing enters, you exile up to 1 target creature with toughness 5 or less. There's not many creatures that toughness is 5 or more. So pretty much anything. When it leaves the battlefield, the exile card's owner gets to manifest dread. So the creature is gone regardless. The best thing to do is manifest dread if this dies. And it crews for 1. The best thing about this, and maybe the worst thing as well, is it comes in as a non-creature, but it's an artifact, so it can still be killed relatively easy. But as we know with the white apparition that was prevalent all over Standard when it was popular, which was a 2/2 for 2 white and 1, and still sees play in the older formats, this is almost the same thing, except the apparition only got 3 or less. This is toughness 3 or less for a creature only. In a high creature format, this will be very good. I just think in Standard, if you're playing white, there's no reason not to play this. And if you have a 1/1, you can crew this up to get you a 2/2. Plus, it flies, so it has evasion to go over the top and get in those last points of damage you need after removing the big nasty. Moving on, coming in at number 2. Holy cow, hold your buttons. It's not a white card. Dun, 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 dun. It is the abhorent Oculus. That's right. It's a giant floating eyeball. Blue and 2 for this 5/5 flyer that at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest dread. Which means you get a 2/2 every upkeep of your opponents. Holy cow, is that amazing. Now, I know what you're saying, but Captain, it says an additional cost, exile 6 cards from your graveyard. That's almost impossible to do by turn 3, when this would be really cool as a 5/5 flyer. True, but hear me out. If you have a way to mill cards, and you're playing a white card, or you're playing white, a white-blue deck, whatever, there are white spells and other spells that let you get things that are 3 mana value or less from your graveyard into play for 2 mana. So if you cycle this into your graveyard some way, shape, or form, on turn 2, you could literally put this into play as a 5/5 flyer. Because it says, as an additional cost to cast the spell. You don't have to do this if you take it out of your graveyard and put it into play. And to be fair, I mean, this is insanely good. And once you start manifesting dread, you could literally just put this thing in your graveyard, so you can get it back out. Or, hear me out, just put it on the battlefield and then flip it up. Weird concept, I know. But this has lots of potential with graveyard shenanigans. So, I see this being very popular in a black-blue, blue-white style deck that lets you get back cards that have cheap mana costs. Because at 3 mana, this thing is something to see. Giggity, get it? Giant eyeball. Anyway, moving on. All right, and with all that said, let's get into the final. The number 1 card to affect Standard in the new set is not just this land, it's the whole cycle. So, the Verge lands are an amazing cycle that's going to get to come to Standard and, let's not forget, other formats. But mainly in Standard, this is going to be an amazing land cycle. For example, with this one here, it's black-red. It comes in and only taps for black. But once you lay a swamp or a mountain, now it also taps for red. So it's easily a dual land. There'll be very few scenarios that these lands won't tap for 2 colors of mana. And with a lot of the lands having double land classifications, it makes it really easy for this. And plus, they don't come into play tapped. They come to play untapped, no other restrictions other than you just need a swamp or a mountain. This is going to be a great land cycle for a lot of different formats, commander, name it, whatever. The drawback is you can't fetch them, which is probably a good thing, or they would be really busted. But for standard, this is a great land cycle, and it's going to be real fun to actually have some mana without restrictions that'll feel the power almost like real dual lands. So, with all that said, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I do appreciate it. Until next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you across from the game table, getting our Verge on. Wow, look at you, my big Oculus. Special word, Oculus. Anyway.